Wang here, and I am excited beyond words to bring you all my first video essay. It feels so good to finally take the plunge, and I want to welcome everyone to the channel. I wanted to start things off here by talking about one of my favorite franchises ever, Yu-Gi-Oh!, and more specifically, its newest completed spin-off series, Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, and why I think it was a great and refreshing return to form for the franchise. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. After 5Ds, things went downhill for me. Zexal was hard to watch. I just didn't resonate with any of the characters, and I had to force myself to finish it. And though I felt Arc 5 started strong with a fun and likable cast, shout out to the little dude Sora, it just didn't keep the momentum throughout its run and felt messy by the end in my opinion. But look, we're not here to talk about them, we're here to talk about Vrains. So right off the bat, I was immediately drawn into the premise of the show being almost entirely set in a VR sim, the characters playing their in-game avatars for the majority of the time. I thought this was a wonderful idea, and it makes me yearn for something similar for us to play in real life. This was also the franchise's first real departure from things like magic or special powers, instead focusing entirely on technology, and more specifically the rise of AIs and the implications that can have on humanity, the help they can offer, or the very real threat on humanity's existence if taken to the extreme. This was a very refreshing spin on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Formula for me, as it takes away things like Chosen Ones, Destiny, etc., to just let the characters do their thing and be themselves, without it feeling like some forced obligation dictated by fate or something similar to that. Speaking of the characters, wow, this series had phenomenal characters, and I'm going to talk about some of my favorites. Starting off with our protagonist, Playmaker. He's not your usual protagonist in any stretch of the imagination. He's not high energy. In fact, he's kind of a stick in the mud, and usually this would be a bad thing, but I think in this case it's quite understandable. His hyper-serious demeanor is a side effect of very real trauma he endured being experimented on as a child, and that's had lasting effects on him. This was a very interesting thing to see this franchise tackle. Someone still dealing with PTSD and coming to terms with the ghosts of their past. And watching him work through and overcome those things was a remarkably great way to connect with him. And even though he's generally less emotive than most characters, he shows time and time again that he has a gigantic heart. Next up is his AI partner named, well, I know, Creative. He is part of the reason Playmaker being hyper-serious works, because I is bringing all the goofiness, and watching the back and forth between these two characters is hilarious. The chemistry they have together is wonderful. I usually making a dumb or silly statement, followed swiftly by a snide, smart-ass remark from Playmaker, and it's probably my favorite of all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonist and partner pairs. His is an existential journey, finding his place in the world among humans. Being an AI with free will, he is seen as a threat and hunted down throughout the series, and it is absolutely heartbreaking how callous some characters treat him and his brethren, the Ignis. I brings the laughs and surprises coming throughout the entire series, and he just endears himself to you. One of the best, and I enjoy his antics so much. Now for Soulburner. This character was a later introduction to the series, but boy does he land with an explosion. He immediately makes a huge impression with his fiery Salamandrate deck and his witty AI sidekick Flame. Like Playmaker, Soulburner is a victim of traumatic experimentations done to them as children and has to work through the pain that caused, and the two form a great team. As a result, he can be kind of quick to anger and is rather easy to goad into tough scenarios, but he never gives up and always brings the heat when the going gets tough. So fun to watch, and has one of, if not the best duel in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a real treat. Another character I thought was really interesting was Blue Angel. how she has this duality to her. She's this huge celebrity duelist in Link Vrains, but in real life she's very shy and quiet. She has an older brother, Akira, who can be very overprotective of her and stifles her being herself, but as the series goes on, and she keeps showing him how capable she is, he eases back on this side of his personality, to the point where at the end of the series they are dueling side by side, protecting each other. And I loved the almost simultaneous character growth they had, and they're one of, if not my favorite set of siblings in the entire franchise. Akira was such a great character, one who was always fighting to protect everyone and shoulder others' burdens. He's sometimes playfully called a Boy Scout by the next character I want to talk about, and it's very accurate. Can't help but love his heroics. Another character I thought was fantastic was the enigmatic hacker Ghost Gal. She's an associate of Akira's and specializes in espionage. She's smart, confident, independent, flirty, and knows how to manipulate people to get what she wants. I love her looking out for number one style of doing things. Despite that, though, she's more than willing to put the needs of others before her own when the greater good calls for it, and she frequently comes to help save the day and help Blue Angel quite a bit in her journey of self-discovery. These three made for a wonderful trio when working together too, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And now, finally, my favorite character in Vrains, the eternal rival to our protagonist Playmaker, the leader of the Knights of Hanoi, the absolute Giga Chad, my man Varys, or Revolver if you watch the sub version. This guy is the definition of cool. He's tough as nails, ruthlessly cunning, and willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done with no remorse whatsoever. The man is on a mission to redeem the mistakes of his father, and he will go to any lengths to accomplish it. He's generally cold and stoic, but does show genuine care for those close to him, especially his father and the other leaders in the Knights of Hanoi. And he's also shown to be incredibly sympathetic to those who are suffering, doing everything he can to help them in his youth, and shows a surprising level of willingness to cooperate with even those he considers his enemies to see his goals come to fruition. Just such a remarkably layered character with so much to like, especially for one that starts off as a villain, and one of the best written characters in the entirety of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise in my opinion. There are many other great characters in here too, like Playmaker's hacker best friend Coulter, the leader of the Ignis Lightning, Varys' right-hand man Spectre, the Gore, the Shepherd. There are so many, I'd be talking all day if I covered all of them. They have really fun and interesting character designs, and aside from a couple of duds, a really rock-solid cast. Moving on from them, I want to talk about one gripe I had with the show, and that was I didn't particularly like the speed duels. They felt too cheap with character skills, and a disturbing amount of them are repetitive, especially on the win condition, which almost always relies on Playmaker's skill to plot armor his way out of everything. It was kind of lame for sure, but at least the real duels, the Master Rule format duels, are some of the best in franchise history and more than make up for the pitfalls of the speed duels. Overall, I thought the story was really good. I don't want to get into specifics and spoil anything for anyone, but it takes a little while to really find its stride, and the early episodes have a ton of repetitive filler content, like the constant use of the Link summoning animation, multiple times back to back. Ugh. But at least that issue goes away after a while, and the plot itself only gets better and better as the series goes on, culminating in a phenomenal and emotional finale. Vrains was such a fun ride, and I enjoyed it so much, it inspired me to finally take this step onto the YouTube floor. It has great characters, a good story, some amazing animation, and not since 5Ds have I felt such hype for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Spinoff. I am so glad I watched it, and highly recommend anyone looking for some good Yu-Gi-Oh! To give it a shot as well. Thank you all so much for watching my very first video. Please feel free to give me feedback on what I might be able to do to improve. I'm new at this, so any helpful advice is greatly appreciated. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and would like to see more, and feel free to share your thoughts down in the comment section. Let me know if you'd like me to review some of the other Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. This has been Wang. Later, everyone. Take care.